All right. Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining us. We're going to wait a little bit for some folks to come in. All right, more folks are rolling in. We will start shortly. For those who celebrate, happy Mardi Gras. I would hope that some of our Louisiana supporters are not joining us today, and instead they are out celebrating. All right, still have more folks coming in. Welcome, everyone. We'll get started very soon. I did want to share this quote that I have. It's from Mary Bird Davis that I read from Joan's recent article in the magazine called From the Ground Up. It's from their most recent winter issue. If you haven't read From the Ground Up, it's their latest issue is all about old growth forests. It's focused on the northeastern forests, and this issue also goes into the Northeastern Old Growth Conference, which we helped organize this past September in Vermont. And I'll read the quote out for everyone because I think it's a really good quote to start this webinar with. We are between two forested worlds, the natural forest of pre-settlement North America and the recovered forest of the future. The earlier forested world is not dead. We are studying and struggling to preserve its living remnants, and we do not believe the future forest is powerless to be born. So again, that's Mary Bird Davis. She was the very first one to survey and summarize where the remnants old growth forests were in the East. And again, that's from Joan's recent article in From the Ground Up magazine, which I have linked right there for everyone. Okay, I think we're going to get started. So thank you everyone. Welcome for joining us. We are recording this webinar and we'll share it with everyone afterwards. So today we are officially introducing the Old Growth Society, which is our very first major giving community. The Old Growth Forest Network has grown steadily for 13 years now, and in the last 3 years, it has accelerated in its capacity. And we are now at a scale where sustained annual support determines exactly how far and how fast we can expand the network and protect older forests nationwide. I'm Kayla Green. I am the Development Director for the Old Growth Forest Network, and you'll also hear from Sarah Adloo, our Executive Director. I'm going to start by sharing the moment when I first understood why this work matters. In 2022, I was living in Western Maryland, unsure whether I would ever return to my career managing live music venues in New York City. And like many people during COVID, I was turning to nature to help me feel grounded. Then one afternoon, I crossed over the Maryland border into West Virginia, and I stumbled upon a small little place called Cathedral State Park. And at the trailhead, I saw this simple metal sign with a phrase I had never heard before: the Old Growth Forest Network. A few minutes into that forest, I understood its mission without anyone explaining it. The eastern hemlocks above me were massive. The air quality felt different. The entire forest just looked and felt ancient and complex. It truly changed me. I went home, I looked up the Old Growth Forest Network, and I realized two things. One, forests like the one I just experienced exist across the country. And two, they are rare enough that they need a network committed to their protection. They were also hiring a development director. I applied and I have never looked back. I'm sure most people on this call have had a version of that moment, whether it was a trail, a tree, just a place that stops you and makes you feel like you are stepping into a chronicle of time. The network exists to ensure that every forested county has a place just like that. So that's what we do. We are the Old Growth Forest Network, and we ensure the protection of publicly accessible old growth and maturing forests. We also make them easy for people to experience. This is through our website, oldgrowthforest.net, which is the first national directory of our oldest forests in the country. It helps people locate their nearest protected older forest, first by selecting a state and then filtering down by county. Our focus is primarily on public forests because when people can experience a place and are moved by that place, they are more likely to keep it standing and protected for generations. So I will now hand it off to Sarah, who will talk about the origins of the network, how it grows, and where it's going in the next 5 years. And then I will return and talk about the Old Growth Society.
Hello, everyone. My name is Sarah Adloo, and I'm the executive director with the Old Growth Forest Network. And I'm looking at some of these names on the list here, and some of you have had the pleasure of meeting in the forest, celebrating some of our network forests together. And for those who I haven't, I hope to see you there one day. So I want to tell you a little bit about the background of this organization and the tremendous work that we've been able to do from our very unique origins. So the Old Growth Forest Network was founded in 2012 by Dr. Joan Maloof, who is an ecologist, professor emeritus at Salisbury University, and author of several books many of you have read. And like you, Joan's books are how I became introduced to OGFN. I had read a special chapter of Teaching the Trees, the first book image you can see here, called Beech. And the chapter called Beech introduces you to the complex world that exists under a single beech tree, and it reflects on how many of the systems of our society and our economy, they don't really promote the existence of a slow-growing beech forest. And I'm so glad that she created the Old Growth Forest Network to be that system that honors and supports how important the slow life of trees and the entire world underneath them are. A few years after I read that chapter, I was teaching a university course on environmental literature and systems thinking, and of course, Joan's chapter on beech trees came to mind, and I was able to teach it in that course and connect many other people to it. And a few months after that experience, I was finishing up my PhD and considering a job at a university when I thumbed through my neighborhood newsletter and I found a column where a woman would describe her favorite running routes around our neighborhood. This edition mentioned a little corner forest that was in the Old Growth Forest Network, which was new to me, but also somehow familiar. I looked up the organization and I saw Joan's name as the founder and realized I had been entwined with her book for so long without knowing about the organization. They were looking for someone to help operate that network with a job listing on the website, and I applied for the job that day. And I was working there not long after, and I too have never looked back. And so, continuing on Joan's works, she later wrote Among the Ancients, where she visited one old growth forest in each of the 26 eastern states, and what she described there was really sobering. These forests were extremely rare. Many people didn't even know they existed in their own areas. And that realization led to a simple but powerful idea. If old growth forests are rare, scattered, and often overlooked, they need a network, a system devoted to identifying them, recognizing them publicly, and ensuring their protection. If With the old growth forest network, um, we began with that clear recognition, that one idea. If we don't intentionally identify and protect these forests, they will disappear quietly. And the network exists because old growth forests cannot advocate for themselves. We've lost nearly all of our primary forests, and these are the forests that have never been heavily logged. And as industrial logging expanded across the United States, and other types of forest clearing and land conversion, these ecosystems disappeared at extraordinary speed. And what remains today of that original heritage is very rare. However, some forests are recovering from past logging, and given enough time and protection, they can regain old growth characteristics. But that's only if we intentionally allow them to age. When Joan saw this loss, she began asking a set of simple, direct questions. Where are the remaining old growth forests? Are they permanently protected? And where are the forests that could become old growth if we let them? Those questions led to a solution. Identify, verify that they're protected, elevate their value, and repeat. And that is the Old Growth Forest Network. To identify and ensure the permanent protection of at least one publicly accessible old growth or future old growth forest in every county in the United States. That is our mission. And through this mission, we also communicate the unique ecology and value of old growth forests, inspiring more people to understand, experience, and protect them. County by county, we search for the oldest forests that can grow there. And if true old growth remains, we work to recognize and protect it. If it does not, we identify the forest most capable of becoming old growth and ensure it has the time to get there. And that is how a national network is built. The United States has roughly 2,370 counties capable of sustaining native forests as one of the types of landscapes across that county. And that means that there are 2,370 potential places where an old growth forest could exist, permanently protected and publicly accessible. So it's a generations long goal, but some counties still contain true old growth, but many do not. But when we look across the country, nearly all can grow it again. Our model is simple, one forest per county. And every forest that joins the network must meet three criteria. It must be ecologically mature, it must be publicly accessible, and it must have documented durable protection from commercial logging. We do not lower these standards, and that consistency is what gives the network credibility. So what does that actually look like on the ground? You can see some wonderful examples here. When our team and volunteers step into a forest, we're not just admiring beautiful trees, we are looking for evidence of time. Are there large old trees that have been growing undisturbed for decades or centuries? Is the canopy layered with younger trees growing beneath older ones? And are there gaps in the canopy? Are there standing dead trees and fallen logs slowly returning to the soil? These are the signs that a forest has been allowed to develop naturally. Forests that have been heavily logged tend to look uniform with the same age, same height, same structure, while older forests look complex, uneven, and alive in every direction. And when you step into these forests, you can feel it, but we also measure it. The Old Growth Forest Network began with Joan identifying forests herself, but today it operates as a coordinated national infrastructure. We have 5 regional managers positioned across the country and more than 400 county coordinators working in their own communities. And anyone can nominate a forest. In fact, we have currently over 1,000 forests in our nomination pipeline. So there's a lot of work for us to do. Our staff and volunteers conduct site evaluations. They assess the forest for signs of ecological maturity, and they verify documented durable protections from commercial logging. We go through those protections with a fine-tooth comb to understand if there's loopholes and really assess the durability of these forests to be there for future generations to enjoy. But many forests appear protected simply because they are parks or conservation lands. And our team reviews the management plans, easements, and policies to confirm that commercial logging is explicitly prohibited. And if that protection is unclear or incomplete, we work collaboratively with landowners or agencies to ensure that protections are explicit and long-lasting. Sometimes that process can take years. And only once that protection is confirmed does the forest become a part of the network. And that is how a local forest becomes part of a national movement. And once a forest meets our criteria, its protection is confirmed and it is formally inducted into the network, we have a public dedication. These events are open to the community and they bring together land managers, volunteers, tribal leaders, supporters, and neighbors. A trailhead sign is installed, and the forest receives a permanent page in our national directory. From that moment forward, it is publicly recognized as a part of the Old Growth Forest Network. So this recognition matters. It raises visibility, it reinforces protection, and it connects that forest to an entire national movement. In 2012, the network began as just one forest, Cook Forest State Park in Pennsylvania. With the help of our board, staff, volunteers, and donors, the network grew. And forest by forest, and state by state, then to today, the network now exists with 320 forests across 40 states. What began as a simple idea has become a national movement. This is what happens when people decide forests should grow old. In 2026, our focus is threefold. First is expansion. We aim to add 55 new forests and bring the network into 4 additional states. Our second is education. We want to expand K through 12 programming and continue delivering public lectures that build the understanding of why older forests matter and how to identify them. And the third is technical guidance. We are increasing our capacity to provide on-the-ground assessments and support for threatened forests. And at this point, we are currently developing our first formal 5-year strategic plan. By 2030, we intend to double the number of forests in the network and establish a presence in all 50 states. So I want to repeat that. What we have been able to do in 13 years, we expect to be able to do in the next 5. And that means not just adding forests, but strengthening our education, expanding that technical guidance, and ensuring the long-term durability of these forests. And to support that growth, we are also modernizing our mapping and data systems. Historically, our forests were represented as simple map points, but now we are building a GIS-based national infrastructure that allows us to better define the boundaries of these areas, integrate ecological data, and operate at scale. So in order to double the network, our systems have to be able to support it. And growth at that scale requires sustained annual support. So I want to let Kayla return and take it from here.
Thank you, Sarah. Okay, so OGFN is funded primarily by absolutely wonderful individuals and foundations. Last year, 73% of our revenue came from individual supporters, and 82% of our expenses went directly to our programming. We have grown significantly in the past 5 years because of people who believe in this mission, many of whom are on this call right now. But as we move into a 5 year expansion plan, we know that that growth must become predictable. And so that is why we created the Old Growth Society. As Sarah said, if we are going to double the network and expand our education and strengthen old growth forest protection nationwide, we are going to need steady, predictable annual support. And the Old Growth Society is how we want to recognize that commitment. It brings together those who give at $1,000 annually and above, as well as those who have included OGFN in their estate plans. Membership begins once a qualifying gift is received, and benefits begin right away. So, for this first year, those who gave at an eligible level in 2025 are automatically enrolled, and gifts made this year extend membership into 2027. Now, even though we are a national organization and accelerating with growth, we are still very small, but we are agile. And so, these larger gifts are what provide the critical structure and stability needed to scale. But I also want to be sure that those who cannot give at society levels know that every single annual gift makes such a difference, especially the smaller annual gifts. All right, I'm going to get into the society now, starting with our first Old Growth Society giving level, which is the Eastern Hemlock Circle, beginning at $1,000 annually. Eastern hemlocks, which is also what I have behind me on my screen, are shade casting and long-lived trees that shape the forests around them. Members of the Eastern Hemlock Circle receive recognition in our annual report. They will also get insider briefings, including quarterly reports and biannual webinars, and invitations to guided old growth experiences. So these guided old growth experiences will be intentionally small, but you will be able to bring a +1. And invitations are extended by circle, beginning with our highest levels of annual support. And I will go more into what to expect from these old growth experiences later on. The next circle is the Bald Cypress Circle, beginning at $2,500 annually. The bald cypress is the oldest wetland tree species in the world. It is resilient and highly adaptable. So at this level, support often covers the full cost of bringing a single forest into the network, from on-site evaluation all the way through induction and recognition. So members of this circle will receive all Eastern Hemlock benefits, along with a first-year welcome gift of Nature's Temple by Joan Maloof and expanded invitations to guided old growth forest experiences. So again, at this bald cypress level, a single gift can bring an entire forest into the network. The Redwood Circle is next, and it begins at $10,000 annually. Redwoods, as everyone knows, are among the most iconic and long-lived trees on Earth. They represent scale and strength. And at this level, support can sustain the infrastructure that allows the Old Growth Forest Network to operate nationally. Redwood Circle members receive all prior benefits, along with our very first merchandise package, including an OGFN shirt and a copy of Joan's forthcoming book, 40 Ways to Know a Tree, which is out this spring. It is also currently available for pre-order. Redwood Circle members will also have opportunities for personalized engagement with OGFN leadership. This could include a one-on-one talk on the phone or Zoom. It could also be a private guided forest experience, either through a network forest, your own private forest, or a community forest. And these one-on-one visits would be arranged when OGFN leadership is traveling in your general region. I just want to say that because of our limited budget, we won't be scheduling separate travel solely for these visits, but when we are nearby and our team does travel a lot, we will be thrilled to connect with you in person, ideally in a forest. And now for our final giving level, this is the highest annual circle, which is the Bristlecone Pine Circle. And this begins at $25,000 annually. Bristlecone pines are the oldest known living organisms on Earth. They endure in harsh conditions for thousands of years. So at this level, a single annual commitment can sustain one regional manager and enable expansion into new regions. So in addition to all the redwood benefits, bristlecone pine members will receive curated old growth forest itineraries for their travels. So that means when you're visiting a region, whether that's the Pacific Northwest, the Great Lakes, or maybe the Southeast, we can recommend specific forests worth experiencing. Some of those would be part of the network. Others are remarkable older forests not yet formally recognized. These itineraries draw from our internal database and decades of collective knowledge. They are designed to help you see the best examples of older forests wherever you travel. And of course, bristlecone pine members will receive invitations to rare guided experiences in forests that few people ever see. So, for example, a few years ago, we dedicated 3 forests in Alaska within the Tongass National Forest. Access required traveling by planes, trains, boats, seaplanes. They were not easy to reach. And so, because space was limited and logistics were complex, we invited a very small group of our most committed supporters to join us. So, we really hope to return to Alaska and other far remote locations in the coming years as additional forests are ready to join the network and the Old Growth Society program expands. So for this year, we are planning 3 guided Old Growth Society experiences right now. Some gatherings may include a modest suggested donation to help cover guide expenses. And because this is our first year organizing, our initial experiences will be concentrated in the Eastern United States, where much of our staff and volunteer leadership are based. But as the program develops and the network grows, we very much look forward to expanding into exciting new regions, especially trips out west. These initial gatherings will focus on a single forest, but in the future, we hope to develop multi-day experiences that explore several significant old growth sites. And so this spring and potentially also in the summer, we are going to gather in Western Massachusetts for a walk through the William Cullen Bryant Homestead. And that will be guided by longtime old growth expert and fellow OGFN volunteer Bob Leverett and his wife Monica. The walk will take us through a section of young forest that progressively becomes older until we arrive at true old growth. And if you don't know who Bob Leverett is, Bob is the leading old growth expert in the country. He single-handedly led the effort to identify, locate, map, and describe old growth forests in the state of Massachusetts. He also developed the techniques to measure trees to determine how much carbon they are reserving over time. Um, and his work has galvanized people across the US, including forest advocates like Joan. There really is no better person to take you through an old growth forest than Bob, so I hope some of you can join us for those walks. In May, we will return to the first forest to join the network, Cook Forest State Park in Western Pennsylvania, and that will be guided by our partners from Friends of Cook Forest. You'll be able to experience the gem of Northeast old growth woodlands with its 1,500 acres of true old growth, including giant ancient hemlocks and white pines. It is home to the largest and highest quality primary old growth forest in the East. And Sarah Adloo will also be joining us for the Cook Forest State Park. And then in this summer, and possibly in the early fall, we will host a guided kayak paddle along the Dragon Run in Eastern Virginia. And that will be led by our board president, Jeff Wright. The route is extremely calm and accessible, and it'll take us through a remarkable old growth bald cypress forest. We have successfully hosted supporters of a wide range of ages and abilities there in the past. So again, these gatherings are going to be primarily small, but they'll be grounded in expertise. They will allow us to learn directly from those who know these forests best. Sorry, I'm getting over the flu. All experiences will require some personal travel and accommodations. Um, and we're finalizing these excursions now, and we will share invitations by email in the coming weeks. And I just want to make sure everyone knows that all of these forests are in the network and they are publicly accessible. So even outside of these guided experiences, we strongly encourage you to visit them on your own. And then I just want to remind folks that financial support and enrollment in the Old Growth Society is one way to strengthen the network, but engagement with this work is another, and it is so important. So, one of the most powerful ways to understand this work is to join us in a forest, and that can be at one of our dedication events, or attend one of our educational events that we host. These gatherings are typically open to the public and completely free of charge. And all of our upcoming events are listed on our website. I have it linked here, oldgrowthforest.net/upcoming events. And we send email invites for events happening in your state. For folks located out west or those who will be traveling out west this summer, I want to let you know that we do have an old growth forest field trip and volunteer training in Gallatin County, Montana in June, and that will be hosted by our Intermountain West Regional Manager, Ashley, and you can see more details about that event on our upcoming events page. We also encourage folks to read and share our blog on our website and read our email newsletters that go out once a quarter. They offer insight into the forests joining the network and the people doing this work across the country, especially our wonderful volunteers. And volunteering is also a really great way to get involved. Many of our staff and board started out as volunteers, and some of our current society members are also our volunteers. And then lastly, simply spreading the word about the Old Growth Forest Network, whether that's engaging with us on social media or sharing our work with your friends and family. When more people know about where their nearest oldest forest is, its future becomes much stronger. So to wrap up, the Old Growth Society is going to be our framework for sustained annual support. This network began with just one forest. And today it spans 320 forests across 40 states. So as we look toward doubling the network by the end of 2030 and expanding into all 50 states, predictable annual support is going to be essential. We know this work is long term, and so our commitment must be as well. So the Old Growth Society brings together those who are helping move this work forward at scale, ensuring that identification, protection, and recognition continue county by county, state by state for decades to come. So for those already enrolled, we very much look forward to continuing this work with you. And for those considering joining, we would be truly honored to welcome you into the society. And for those who might not be able to join the society, please know that every single gift matters. A $40 annual contribution installs one official OGFN trailhead sign in a newly inducted forest. As I mentioned at the beginning of this presentation, that sign is how I learned about OGFN, and I am forever in debt to the people who donated to keep that sign in place. And, as the network grows, so does the need for those signs. So whether you can give $40 each year or $25,000, you are helping forests grow old, and you are building this network with us. So thank you for joining us today, and for learning more about the Old Growth Forest Network and the Old Growth Society. This network is truly a national effort, and it only grows because people choose to build it. If you have any questions, please contact me directly. You can reach me by email at kayla@oldgrowthforest.net. I'm also happy to hop on a phone call with you. And to learn more about the society, you can visit oldgrowthforest.net/oldgrowth society. We'll also share a recording of this webinar with everyone later this week, as well as links to everything that we have mentioned. And for those who are enrolled in the society this year, we will be sending more information out via email to RSVP for our upcoming excursions this year. So thank you again. And I'll leave you with this photo of me returning to Cathedral State Park with my son. And again, that's the forest that introduced me to the network. So thank you again, and we hope to see many of you in an old growth forest with us this year.